Szanowni Państwo, witamy serdecznie wśród nas Lorda Carnarvon i Lady Fiona Carnarvon, gospodarzy Highclere Castle, naszych gości specjalnych i przyjaciół Polski. To ich pierwsza historyczna wizyta w naszym kraju. Powitajmy ich bardzo gorąco.
Zapraszamy Państwa na wystąpienie Lady Carnarvon, autorki książek i animatorki życia kulturalnego i gospodyni słynnego Highclere Castle, znanego widzom na całym świecie jako posiadłość z serialu Downton Abbey.
Lady Carnarvon z wielką troską pielęgnuje pamięć o historii, szczególnie o II wojnie światowej. Co roku organizuje obchody rocznicy D-Day, oddając hołd żołnierzom i weteranom. Wśród flag sprzymierzonych państw na zamku zawsze powiewa także flaga polska, symbol pamięci o wkładzie Polaków w wolność Europy.
W swoim wystąpieniu zatytułowanym z Highclere Castle, prawdziwego Downton Abbey do bohaterskiej Reduty, magia, miejsca, siła, dziedzictwa, Lady opowie o tym, jak dziedzictwo i tradycja mogą inspirować nowoczesne przywództwo. I w tym momencie oczywiście przypominamy, że mamy dostępne tłumaczenie symultaniczne. Dziękuję bardzo. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Dzień dobry Państwu. Szanowni Państwo, jest mi bardzo miło być w Polsce i przemawiać do Państwa. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you so much for inviting me here today. I think you all know where I live for other reasons apart from Highclere Castle. And it is a great honour through Jolenta to be here. I'm just going to practice pressing forward. Oh, there we go. So this is Highclere Castle. It's been a home for over 1,000 years, although many of you think it's a Victorian castle with a family called Lord and Lady Grantham living there. But in fact, the landscape tells a much older story, and I wanted to share some stories of the architecture, of the building and the landscape, and the values and cultures that they mean for us today. At the bottom of the corner of the picture is an old walled garden, and our records for this garden go back 1,000 years to 1200 AD, when the monks who owned Highclere for 800 years, the bishops of Winchester, planted 61 apples and pear trees in there. So we begin amongst the gardens. I think you all know it because of Downton Abbey, this extraordinary programme which I think has been reassuring and fun and an anchor for all of us. In fact, they were here on and off for 16 years. We were living with a film crew. And it's now been watched by towards 400 million people around the world. So every country which has a TV could have watched, the people in there could have watched Downton Abbey, which is extraordinary. And we were looking in at this family. The main action was standing up, sitting down, walking through a door. There wasn't much fast and furious action or anything like that. It was about family and conversation. We all laughed out loud, we all cried, and it was entirely engaging. And Highclere Castle and Downton Abbey became synonymous. The press and the marketing for us as a business were invaluable, and we've made the best of it. Locations pay a certain amount of money, but they are not going to be the answer. It's what you do with the opportunities in front of you. And Geordie and I, we are a team and a double act, work hard together. I just wanted to share this slide because you have Downton Abbey and Highclere Castle on one slide. You've got Lord Grantham, Hugh Bonneville down the bottom. The sheep are the same in both, and he has 1 Labrador, and I have 8 dogs, 5 Labradors. Little bit of difference, but the same thing, and it's about values, sense of place, the magic of place. So Geordie and I think we are stewards, just stewards, custodians, protectors, guardians of Highclere. The bishops owned Highclere for 800 years, as I mentioned, and Geordie and his family have been there since 1677. Not him personally, or he'd really look rather good, but we are just one of a long line, and typically in eccentric British fashion, we have a pony who thinks she's a dog and comes for walks, an old battered car, a selection of gardening equipment, and some of the dogs. And we are both passionate about gardening, which is terribly British. These are some of the people who have preceded us. You've got William of Wykeham at the top, who lived at Highclere in the 14th century, to some of Geordie's ancestors. So we are all just one of a long line, passing the baton on of custodianship of life, of the journey of life, from the past to the present, and hopefully to future generations, so that someone's granddaughter or grandson is sitting in our gardens under a cedar tree saying, wow, that's a beautiful tree which we planted. Archives in England are remarkable because we still have them. I know that is a more challenging situation here in Poland. And this particular contract in front of you recognizes the fact that in 749 AD, King Cuthred of Wessex granted Highclere to the bishops of Winchester. So paper archives begin to tell the story. England was broken up into many different countries at the time, in the similar way to Poland, which obviously came together with a Christian recognition point of 966 AD. So that's in Anglo-Saxon, which bizarrely I studied. It's an amazing language, and there's a great body of poetry. Again, like Poland, there's written literacy in the landscape itself. So these are Bronze Age tumuli, and there's an Iron Age fort. So we can all walk in time at Highclere for about 6,500 years. And I love that sense of continuity. It helps me feel grounded to know where I stand. And perhaps that's one of the successes of Downton Abbey. You have a very strong sense of where Maggie Smith is sitting, or was sitting. This is an Iron Age fort on the top of Beacon Hill. So the word stewardship looks at being a protector and a guardian, and this was Wield Settle a Beacon. It was about the hill of the guardian of the chieftain, and it sits in the middle of Highclere today as it did then. You can still beat the bounds, the geographical bounds of Highclere, from where it was marked out by King Cuthred of Wessex 1,300 years ago. Geography has changed. We're not as large an estate as we were, but there's still, the nub of it is still there, and that's important. Our story goes on with maps. I love maps. It's far better than sat-nav. I think I'm better with maps. And they're very important because the house is still marked in the same place then as it is now. And you can see the avenues of trees that Geordie's ancestors planted. So this is where his story begins. Now, this is important for many ways. It's important because his ancestors transformed a Tudor house to a Jane Austen house, in front of which Jane Austen rode in a carriage, which is so exciting because I love Jane Austen. The man who lived here at the time was the second Earl of Carnarvon. And I couldn't really believe it, but it was extraordinary because on May the 3rd, 1791, he was here in Warsaw, and he watched the inauguration of the Constitution, and he wrote about 15 pages in his diary, and it begins, "At length Poland beholds her long-wished-for Constitution completed, and with it her happiness for freedom and independence established. This great event took place in the session of the Diet on the 3rd of May. An event of so great importance should be laid before the public with all its particulars." And he tried to do that. Edmund Burke, another English philosopher, wrote, "Probably the most pure public good which has ever been conferred on mankind." So that was his assessment of what happened here. And Geordie and I stood in the Parliament where his ancestor would have stood on that day, watching it all and making notes. I was also very lucky because I was trying to find if there were other Polish connections. And at this point, I would just like to mention that we have a letter from, I think, a hero and a patriot in many countries, Kościuszko, in our archives. It's written in French to the second Earl of Carnarvon. And this is on this slide here. Kościuszko, the diet. So I hope I can share them with you and get better copies, because they are not particularly strong, which I do realize. But I love the links and the threads that bind us all together. And I think I have more research to do to find out why the second Earl of Carnarvon, what had led him to come to Warsaw, his vision and his dreams, and that time so much was shared in that fashion. So coming back, he lived in the Jane Austen house, and his son converted that, transformed it, because buildings, architecture changes, in towards the house you see today. It is stunning. It has 250 to 300 rooms. We would not build a home like that today. But for Geordie and I, it's our role to sustain it, look after it, try to work out what it is and what we are looking after, and try to find that by many different means. Of course, when you're looking after things, you have to start with the roofs. So Geordie didn't really tell me how big his roofs were, how poor condition they were when we got married, but never mind. We've started on that journey. There's a lot of roofs and there's a lot of holes, and together we have filled a lot of them in. I love the roof. I love looking down, because we can't make these buildings today, although in Warsaw you have done much of the same. So chapeau to all the craftsmen of Poland. This was a fallen down lodge gate. It's now a little cottage to rent out. It's got a bedroom one side, bathroom, and a sitting room the other. So we just do 2 nights because it might drive visitors crazy. But it's cute and it's in the country. So you have broken wood. I know in Poland there was nothing left at all. But we are dealing with woodworm and broken wood and just mending things the whole time. So I have now got a degree in things like French drains and woodworm and damp proofing, which I actually really rather enjoy. And water pipes, water pipes everywhere. Again, it's how to deal with them. And we have to problem solve at Highclere, because no one else is going to do it. So it's about graft, hard work, and problem solving. And you have to be inventive, because there's no rule book we can work to. There are many follies at Highclere, and these follies are really points to view the world around from, which takes you outside. So we're also stewarding what is outside and what we grow. So this is a medieval barn. It dates from 1438, and it was probably last rebuilt in 1438. So we drew the monopoly card of not much roof and not many tiles. And over a decade, 10 years, we have now rebuilt it. It is used to store a combine harvester. And sometimes I'm not sure where it's going to evolve to. But we were right to restore it for whatever reason it tells us to evolve to as we go forward. We farm. We have wildlife. We have wildflower meadows. And that's why people lived at Highclere, for the good chalk water, the light soils, and some of the better soils today. It is beautiful for our souls, for our spirit, for walking, and it's good to farm well and eat well. So I'm really a farmer's wife, and I have actually tried driving the combine harvester. I do it every year, and I get no better. We have sheep, 1,400 sheep. We have pigs, rare breeds. And in fact, the pig which I'm bending over is called Lady Mary, after Downton Abbey. And we also had Lady Sybil and Lady Edith, Lady Violet and Lady Cora. We've now evolved into a modern world, and we have Barbie and Ken the bull. And horses, obviously. We are stewards of the trees and the world around, and never has the world around, through climate change and our activity, be so challenged. We share this world, we are connected with this world, we are part of this world. So we are looking after the ancient trees, the bluebells, the cedar trees, the oak trees. The oldest trees at Highclere is a yew tree, which is 1,000 years old, planted by an old church. There are amazing oak trees, beech trees, and I love the trees. Wildflowers, wildflower meadows. We've done this a long time ago. Insects, bees, everything which makes the world look beautiful and takes you into a world apart. A world full of spring bulbs at this time of year. One of the legacies is that of Tutankhamun and the 5th Earl of Carnarvon. And this is another legacy to share through storied storytelling, through storied history and storytelling. An extraordinary legacy from 1922. No Lord Carnarvon, no Tutankhamun. So we owe him a huge debt. We're open to the public. We have visitors. We have to sustain what we wish to look after. Money is not free. It doesn't grow on trees. You have to make it. We have many events to bring people in to the house and special events. To run them, we have a home team of 160 to 140 people, depending on the time of year, who've worked with us for a few years, many 25 years, and the oldest members of the team have been at Highclere for 65 years. We run many events around key turning points of the world we share. Of the First World War, through which I met Jolenta, remembering the peace of 1918, to raise money for those who serve and save today in whatever country they save and serve, using Downton to bring people together. And last September, we had a group from Poland come because we were celebrating the end of World War II, trying to remember again what our ancestors achieved, what they gave their lives for, the values and the culture, because you can still touch it at Highclere. It's touching the architecture. And I hope you can see a group of your Polish colleagues who joined us for the day, amongst another 20 to 30 ambassadors. It was very moving. We danced, we laughed, we spoke, we watched planes in the sky, and it was completely extraordinary. The man in the middle there is a soldier dressed in red, and he actually won the Voice of Britain, the Best of Britain talent, I think, whatever it was, at the age of 85. So there's hope for all of us yet. And at the age of 96, she was 96 last year, he came and sang for us all, for the thousands of people who were there. And that matters to me, to remember to say thank you to all of those who came before us, all our ancestors, and we can all understand the music of song. The RAF came down, and the man in the middle, with a small photograph behind him, is called Colin Bell. He flew mosquitoes in the World War II. He flew mosquitoes over Germany. He took part in many of the bombing command raids. He's 105, I think possibly today. You would never know. He acts more like 65. I think that's extraordinary. He always, when I ask him to come and help me, says yes. So he is extraordinary. He thoroughly enjoys the company of young people, young, pretty girls, because sadly his wife has died. And he is extremely good company, so he is amazing. In fact, 2 of my team went out for lunch with him, and they had too much to drink. So he missed his appointment with his doctor for a heart checkup because he had a bit of a hangover. But anyway, he made it the next day, and he's still going strong. So the history of planes is very important to us. At Highclere, I found the remains of 8 planes from World War II. They were full of young men from 19 to 24 years old from different countries. I didn't know they were there, and it was only through luck and a keeper who'd worked at Highclere for some 60 years, so he could still tell me the story, that I found out about their story. And we then have created a monument to all those who flew in World War II, the Cedar Airmen. We've planted crosses in our land where all these planes went down to commemorate and remember these young men. And we found the families today in America, New Zealand, and England to let them know where their fathers and grandfathers and brothers sadly died. So they had a place that they could come to and remember them. And being a modern world, there's a Facebook group. But it is very moving, and I'm now the owner of the remains of 8 planes, from a B-17 to P-38 mosquitoes, etc. And it's the mosquito story which brought Colin Bell to us. In fact, Geoffrey de Havilland made his first flight from Highclere in 1909, the beginning of our aviation history. So there are many, many layers of history at Highclere, many, many layers of story. Downton Abbey's brought them and shone a spotlight on us. And then I'm trying to turn it round and share these stories with all of you through books, through Instagram, through Facebook, etc. So this is the cedar airman. He's carved from a cedar tree which fell down, and he's any airman. He's not British or Polish or American or Canadian or New Zealand. He just stands for a young man turning round to say goodbye to all of you, because he's going to climb into his Ferrari in the sky. But he doesn't come back. So that's what he's about. And he's facing the hillside where all the planes are. He's in the middle of the garden. So this is a way again of saying thank you and recalling the memories. We shouldn't lose the memories. It's hard not to, but it's thinking of different ways of bringing the story and these people's lives alive, because they matter. Every Christmas time, we come together in the castle. This is the time for family, for coming together, for thinking of others, for following Charles Dickens's adage of what can you do for other people at Christmas time. And the Victorian Christmas in Charles Dickens has become such an important part of all of our Christmases today, although I know Poland has very strong traditions as well. But that theme from Victorian times nevertheless percolates through. And I'm very grateful to Gerald Dickens, Charles Dickens' great-grandson, who comes to perform A Christmas Carol every year in the castle. It's amazing. I never tire of watching him act. And again, that's bringing history, stories, people together in the castle, where Geordie's ancestors also read books. So it's, again, trying to relate the reality of living there to sharing it with other people, to telling the stories and bringing people from around the world to Highclere. And they come from so many different countries, and they are all welcome. We try to stay non-political and welcoming, hospitable, and share the heritage. So that's, I think, really what stands out with heritage in England today, where still hundreds of these houses still survive. Post-World War II, 1,000 of these houses were demolished completely. They don't exist. But some still remain. And in some ways, that's given us a chance to really think about what they are. So Christmas time at Highclere, it looks so beautiful, doesn't it? And it's the time to open to the public, welcome people, have afternoon teas, carol concerts, and everything else. So you've got the tree in the middle and Gerald Dickens and the little lights welcoming people up the drive. Downton Abbey shared Christmas with us every year that they were here for the series. I think they had 5 Christmases at Highclere. One might have been in Scotland. But again, they were a highlight of Christmas Day and watched in England by 11 million people. But I'd just like to finish up by saying another person to say thank you to for bringing history alive was Maggie Smith. I think we all watched out for the one line she said, "What is a weekend?" or the dirty look she gave somebody when it hadn't gone very well. Her wit, and she was acting until she was 88, quite extraordinary. And when she was 87, she was doing a one-woman play in London. So never give up, use it, don't lose it, and think of Maggie Smith and her strength of character, how she went through all her challenges, being married, bringing up 2 sons, and with a stellar acting career. Extraordinary. My final slide, I hope I've translated correctly into Polish, but I wanted to leave this with you because it's so beautiful. And it's why we all sit together and what joins us all together in this world. But thank you for asking me here today. I hope it's about the right length of time, but thank you.